So in this video we're going to continue exactly where I left off. So I'm just going to pick up, hit the ground running here. I'm not really going to explain too much that we've already covered in the last video. So moving forward, just organizing this stuff a little bit better. So I've got my two material functions here, and each one has an output called result. Now in order to make this work, what I need to do is I need to blend this stuff together. So if I go to material functions over here in the palette, you can see that there's a whole bunch of different blend material functions you can use. And if I grab any of these material functions and stuff and drag and drop them into my graph here, you'll notice that they're blue to let you know they're material functions. And all you do is drop them in and plug stuff in as usual. So these material function nodes work the same as pretty much any other node in terms of how you plug them in and all that stuff. So if I jump back to my material function over here for Planet Mat, I could see that on the left I've got some material function details. If I click on expose to library and then I expand library categories down here, it'll say miscellaneous by default. I can actually type in my own custom library of material functions. So I'm going to put in planets, and that'll pretty much do it. But essentially what happens is you can categorize this stuff, and you can even give it a description. So I'll just put in planet materials with an exclamation mark at the end for good measure. And this allows me to organize stuff a lot better. I'll go ahead and apply the changes. If I look on the right over here under category, and my category is right now set to all, so it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult to find this. So let me go up here. Let me switch to functions for the category so I could filter out everything and just show functions. If I go over here to, and it's all alphabetically organized, so if I go to the P section, I can see there's a category called planets, and there's my material function, MF Planet Mat, which is pretty awesome. So I'll go to the material function for the planet Shiny, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come over here to its parameters. I'm going to type in planets for the library category. I'm going to call this planet materials and expose it to the library. And this is great, especially if you're working in a team with other artists. You can have a person that's just dedicated to creating custom material functions for your project and just doing all kinds of cool stuff of shaders. And then they can organize this stuff, make categories for it, put descriptions and custom names and stuff, and then artists on your team can grab this stuff and start plugging into their materials and work a little bit more efficiently and a little faster. So it's kind of a studio production pipeline mentality, and that's what you want to have. Even if you have a small team with 3 or 4 people, it doesn't matter. You still want to work this way because it's smarter, faster, and makes it easier on everybody on the team. Less guesswork and less redundant work. So in order for these two material functions to work, I can't just take the result and plug it into the base color and all that. That doesn't work. So you're probably sitting here wondering, well, how in the world are you going to plug all this stuff in that doesn't look like it can plug in? Well, there's a little technique to that. We need to blend both of these material functions because essentially each of these material functions is like a material. So what we want to do is we want to basically composite these materials together. To do that, I'll come over to the palette, and if you switch to the functions category, go down here to the material layer blend category, and you'll see all of these different functions that come with Unreal 4 that let you do material layer blending. So there's a whole bunch. Feel free to experiment after this video, check them out, and try to see the different results you can get. I'm going to grab the Material Layer Blend Standard, which is just a basic. It lets you layer a base material and then a top material on top of the base. So I'm going to plug the Planet Mat material to the base material and the Planet Shiny to the top material. And obviously we're not going to see any changes here. Now the output is a blended material. I could plug that into the base color, but I'm not going to really get anything that's going to work. A couple of reasons for that. That's not the way that this works. You don't want to plug that in that way. So I'm just going to move this over here out of the way. And also we don't have an alpha plugged into the Material Layer Blend Standard. So I'm going to come over here to the materials parameters, and if I look down here, there's something called use material attributes, and it's off by default. So I'll check that on, and now my material node changed. And this allows me to plug in the blended material into this guy, and now I actually get a result. My material is not black anymore. So when you're plugging in something from one of these material layer blends, you have to make sure that you switch your material to use material attributes. So right now my planet over here is using the wrong material. I think it's time to go ahead and plug our main planet material, and let's apply that to our planet. So this is what we have. We have this weird kind of looking planet over here, and right now it's just using one of the material functions. Maybe you noticed it, maybe you didn't, but right now it's actually just using one. So this material is not correctly set up yet. So there's still some more stuff we have to do to this to get it to work right. You'll notice there's an alpha parameter over here in the material layer blend standard. And the way this works is pretty simple. I'm going to grab a texture, and this is a curvature map that I baked out of X normal. So you can see that it looks kind of weird, but just bear with me for a second here. If I isolate the channels and I look at the red channel has a mask. If I go to the blue channel or the green channel, I have a different mask. And you can actually put a mask in the blue channel and even the alpha channel. So you can have 4 masks in one texture. So even though this looks red and green, I'm not using the red and green as a texture, although I admit that would create a pretty funky looking planet, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to use one texture to hold 2 different masks, and they're being held in the red and green channel of this texture map, again, that I baked out as a curvature map out of X normal. So I could take the green channel by taking the red pin and plugging it into the alpha input of the blend standard node. And now if I come over here, I'll see that now I have blue. And this blue is from the planet shiny material function, which, if you remember, I made it a blue color. I did that on purpose just so that we could see a strong contrast and we can immediately see that, yeah, there's 2 different materials at play here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start to play around with this a little bit more. I'm going to take the red channel here from this texture, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to plug it into a component mask, and I'm going to set it to red. And now you can actually see, if I do a preview of this and I look at this in my preview window, let me just expand this out. This is the red channel. So anything that's white is going to make that blue material show up. Areas that are black are going to make the original gray material show up, which is the base material. So the base material is in areas that are black. The shiny material, the blue one, is showing up in areas that are white. Areas that are gray are going to show a little bit of the material. So if something's like a medium gray, you're going to see a medium amount of the blue material show up. If you want the full amount, you're going to have to use white. So you can paint a mask like this in something like Photoshop by hand. You can also use curvature maps, pretty much anything that, any way you can create a black and white mask, you can use for this. Okay, so we've got the blue showing up in these sort of cracks and crevices in our planet, which starts to give us a more interesting look. So I could see here, I start to really see and understand the areas that the material is going to show up in. Now if I go down here, there's not really good lighting in the dark side of this planet, or moon, whatever it is. But we can really see the white areas pop up. The kind of dark gray areas, they don't show up too well. So you'll have to play around with your masks a little bit as you do some look development on your material to get something you like. But that's just a matter of tweaking and playing around with the values. So I'm going to mask out the green. If you remember my, let me just go over here and stop previewing that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the green here, I'm going to plug this into the alpha. So now we're using the green mask to to control this. So I could just take the green channel and plug that straight into the alpha. I was just using the component mask to block out certain colors and from the texture. So if I use the green, you can see the green had more of these splotchy areas and not so much of the cracks. So now we can see the blue material kind of showing up in some of those areas. So if I go ahead and I preview this, here's the green areas. See this? The green areas are the areas where the blue material is going to show up. Don't worry about the red. The red's not important, but the green is the channel that we're using right now. So we can see the green areas here where the blue is going to show up. So we can see we've got these sort of like faint oceans or whatever this is on our planet starting to show up, which is pretty cool. So we have a lot of control over what material shows up in what areas of our 3D asset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the red and the green channel together, and I'm going to plug that into the alpha. And now we can see that we have blue in the areas that are the big crack areas, and also the kind of little subtle ocean green areas that we had before. And if I go ahead and preview the add node, I can see all of that stuff is being added together and my mask changes. So pretty cool stuff. So you can start to see the power of material layers and how you can use this to really control the look of your different materials and things and create more advanced things. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and I'm going to get myself an ambient occlusion or an occlusion map. I also bake this out in X normal off of a high res. So if I go ahead and preview this, this is what my ambient occlusion map looks like. And what I want to do is I want to plug this occlusion map into my material, but I can't unless I go to the main material parameters and use the switch off the use material attributes. Now I can plug in the ambient occlusion to the material. But there's a problem. Because I'm not using the material attributes anymore, I can't plug in the layer blend into my material. So I'm kind of stuck. What do I do? Can I only choose to use one or the other? Nope. There's actually a workflow for this. So what I need to do is I need to take everything that's coming out of the blend, the layers, and I need to break them up and then reassemble them in order to get this to work. And this is just one of those circumstances where you have to do this to get it to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for break material attributes. And I'm going to bring that in. And this looks like the make material attributes we used in the material functions. So what I'm going to do is plug in the layer blend into the break material, and then I'm going to take the break material and reconnect all of these different inputs into the corresponding inputs on the main material node. So I'll plug in everything: the base color, metallic, specular, roughness, emissive color, normal. I'm not really using emissive color, but that's just for now. I'm actually going to use it in a bit to show you something. But you can see we have to reassemble our material basically. So now I can plug in the ambient occlusion. So now guess what? I can have my cake and eat it too. I can have the layers blending in together, and I can plug in my ambient occlusion. So again, this is a more advanced workflow. You can learn it though. You just got to put in the time to figure it out and learn this stuff. But it's pretty powerful stuff. This is a more advanced material workflow, but it's going to give you a lot of artistic control and allow you to do much more complex and complicated looking materials for the art in your environments and characters and all that stuff in your game. So I was just looking at unplugging the normal map there. I just want to see what it looked like without the normal map, because my normal map is kind of strong right now. Realistically, a planet wouldn't have like those features that strong if you were looking at it from space. But I've never been in space, so what do I know? So I'm going to take all this stuff here in the planet shiny material function. I'm just going to start moving some of this stuff around. At this point, I've pretty much showed you and taught you the important and fundamental basics of material functions and material layers. So right now we're going to have a little bit of fun with this. We're just going to mess around here a little bit just to build upon what I've shown you and what I've taught you. So what I'm going to do here, and I'll let you see what I'm going to do. I'm not going to kind of explain what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do it. You can follow along and see what I do. I'm going to take a new color. I'm going to make it like a hot sort of lava orange, sort of orangey red. This is more like a yellow. So let me go back in there and change that more to give it more of a reddish hue. I'm going to take this multiply and I'm going to plug that into a function input. Again, we're working with material function again, so we need to use function inputs. I'm going to take the value, change it to 10. I'm going to plug this into the emissive color, which is going to allow our planet to glow, which starts to look pretty cool. It starts to look more like a star, actually. But that's pretty cool. I'm going to change the name of this function input. I'm going to call this lava. And I think you can start to kind of guess where I'm going with this. I'm going to call this lava color. I don't want to call it just color because I have other nodes also called color, so lava color makes more sense. And I'm going to call this one lava temp or lava temperature. So this is going to control the strength for the temperature of the lava. And I think a default of 10 will work out pretty well. So I'll apply the changes, I'll come back, and you're going to notice that I get an error message on the top and my material function turned red. And the error is basically telling us, hey, look, here's a red material function. This isn't going to work because we have an input that doesn't have anything plugged into it. So we can't proceed. So what I'm going to do is, I just noticed that I actually set this up incorrectly. This is what I need to do. What I need to do is create a function input for the lava color and a separate function input for the lava temperature, which I forgot to do. But that's okay. That's the iteration process. That's the fun of it. So I'm going to plug in the lava color into this function input, which is called lava. And now what I'm going to have to do is call this lava color so everything makes sense. I'm going to make a copy of this guy. I'm going to call this one lava temp. So I'm going to move this down. I'm going to plug in the lava temp constant into the input. And now what I need to do is multiply these guys together and then plug the multiply into the emissive. So I'll plug this one into A, this one will go into B, and then this one's going to go into the emissive color. I'll apply the changes. I'm going to jump back into the main planet material editor. Of course it's still red because we need to plug something into lava color and lava temp, which we currently don't have. So the best thing to do is to take these expressions here, copy them, Control C, and paste them with Control V over here. So I've got my 10 and my kind of yellowish color. I'm going to plug in the temp where that belongs. I'm going to plug in the lava color where that belongs, and boom, look at that. We have ourselves a hot lava planet. Maybe it's about to explode or something. Maybe there was an alien race on there that went into like a crazy war against itself and they're about to blow up their planet. Not that that would be cliche in a sci-fi movie. I've never heard of that getting done before. But there you go. So having a little bit of fun with this, you can start to do some look dev on your materials and get some more interesting results. So you can do a star, you can do a planet, you can do plasma energy being fired from a proton cannon for a first-person shooter game you're going to put on Steam, anything like that. So the limits are set by you. You know, the sky's the limit. You're only limited by your own creativity. So right now this isn't glowing too much, so let me see if increasing my bloom intensity in my post-process volume helps. And no. So I'll tell you what, I'm pretty sure, and this goes outside the scope of material functions and material layers, but I just kind of want this thing to glow. I'm noticing that changing my bloom setting isn't actually making it glow. So that tells me one thing. It's probably going to be my auto exposure that's set incorrectly. So I'm going to come over here and it's probably going to be, if not the min brightness, it's going to have to be the max brightness. Yeah, that's what it was. So I'll set my max brightness to something like 0.5 maybe. That's a little bit too low, maybe like a 0.4. As I start to decrease this number, the auto exposure will allow the brightness to get stronger and stronger. So I could start to make it look like this lava is actually glowing, which this is probably totally unrealistic, but then again, I've never been in space, so what do I know? Maybe there is a planet out there that looks exactly like this. Okay, so that pretty much does it for material layers and material functions. Congratulations, you just learned how to do material layers and functions at the same time. Cool. So go ahead and explore this stuff, kind of build on what I showed you, and keep messing around and experimenting. Part of the process, or the main part of the process of look development with shaders and materials, is experimenting and testing different things out to find out new ways to make stuff look cool. So go ahead and have fun, knock yourself out.